Remember, Guardian, it is you who wields this dark power, not the other way around. Demonstrate how the darkness can be used for good.
Today's build focuses on Final Warning, an exotic strand kinetic sidearm. We have two perks to go over here. The first one is All at Once. Holding down the trigger marks the targets within range and loads multiple bullets, which fire in a burst with increased stability on trigger release. Hitting a marked target with a fully charged burst will unravel them. Our second perk, Pick Your Poison. You can fire this charged shot through hipfire. Those hipfire projectiles will track marked targets, dealing increased body shot damage on impact. When you aim the charged shot, projectiles will have greatly increased velocity and they will deal extra critical hit damage to marked targets. So let's take a look at this gun in the Lost Sector. We've got a body shot dealing 8,670 damage and 12,154 damage on a headshot that is uncharged. Once again, 8,670 damage for a body and 12,154 for a headshot. Now that's without any charges. Well, let's look at the charged body shot. The charged body shot was dealing about 10,000 damage there. It's going to be a little bit different on these majors because exotic primaries deal more damage to minor red bar targets. Once again, charged body shot, 10,404 damage. And then here on Carl, we're dealing 4,444 damage as a body shot and 6,230 damage for a headshot. Now we're going to look at a charged up shot all at once, full charge here. We're dealing 14,952 damage per shot. Now we fire 10 shots in one of those bursts. That's a total of 149,520 damage. And next we want to take a look at a charged up shot on a minor enemy. We're hitting for 24,308 damage. And with that out of the way, we want to start looking at our exotic armor piece. So let's take a look at that next. Now, right now in the sandbox, Strand doesn't really have many exotics that are able to capitalize on its utility. So what we're going to be taking advantage of here today is the Mantle of Battle Harmony. Mantle of Battle Harmony has two perks on it. We'll go over the first one, Energy Siphon. Takedowns with weapons that have a damage type matching your subclass grant you super energy. For 2 seconds, you'll gain 3% super energy. While your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of the type matching your subclass element. Our second perk of the exotic is Absorption Cells. When your super is full, you are granted the Absorption Cells buff. Absorption Cells will grant you 20% increased damage for weapons that match your subclass for 6 seconds. This can stack up to a maximum duration of 10 seconds in PvE. Now on our testing here with Carl with Absorption Cells active, we're dealing 7,476 damage, and that is a 20% increase. But we're also going to see something interesting here. And the interesting thing that we're going to see here is that Absorption Cells will not stack on these major targets. So it's really good for chewing through red bars, but it is not going to stack on top of anything else. But that doesn't matter because we still have the benefit of the passive super regeneration that we're going to gain as a bonus from wearing Mantle of Battle Harmony. And on this clip, since the beginning of the transition of this clip where I restarted the Lost Sector, I'm just killing everything to get super energy. And in my editing software, it's a 1 and 2 second clip. Now I've sped it up to 200% to make it down to about 30 seconds so I can talk over this. And you'll see in 1 minute, I have my super here. Slow down a little bit here at the boss because I'm just fighting him and not as many ads. And then I have my super. So that is the great benefit of Mantle of Battle Harmony. Without you having to think about anything, you're going to kill enemies and get a fast super. And with the exotic weapon and the exotic armor piece out of the way, let's dive into our strand aspects. Our first strand aspect is Mindspun Invocation. Your grapple, shackle grenade, and threadling grenade have enhanced functionality. Your grapple melee spawns 3 threadling eggs. Hold to consume your shackle grenade and activate Weaver's Trance. Final blows while Weaver's Trance is active create a suspending detonation. Or you can hold to consume your threadling grenade and immediately generate 5 perched threadlings. So in this build, we are running the Shackle Grenade just because if an unstoppable champion or an overload or barrier happens to push us, we have that Shackle Grenade available. But what we're doing here in the build is we're consuming our grenade. By consuming our grenade, we're able to create that AoE suspension detonation effect, which is going to allow us to crowd control the battlefield. That's very important because by being able to suspend targets, those targets cannot shoot back. And there's a repeatable loop here that we're able to do by defeating one suspended target, and then when we defeat that suspended target, his death will then suspend other nearby targets as well, allowing this to chain to multiple enemies multiple times and really lock down a room and provide that crowd control. Now next we're going to talk about our second aspect, Weaver's Call. Weaver's Call states that when you cast your Rift, you're able to send threadlings out. Now many of you are familiar with the threadling. The threadling is a creature woven from pure strand matter. It goes out, it seeks and damages nearby targets, dealing damage, and if there isn't any nearby targets, it will return to you. Now this aspect allows you to cast your Rift, send out those 3 threadlings, and if they don't hit anything, they will come back and perch on top of your shoulders around your body. So let's take a look at some gameplay footage here. We're casting our Rift, we're sending out the 3 threadlings, as mentioned. Those are going to go out, those are going to seek targets and deal damage. When we deal damage with our weapon, we're also going to be able to generate a threadling. And come next season, we'll get a new aspect, so you won't have to rely on this one. So there's other options in the build here where we're going to be able to run a weapon that has Hatchling. Hatchling is going to create a threadling off of a precision kill on our weapon. So there's flexibility in the build where you can also switch to a weapon that has Hatchling if you don't want to run Final Warning. So now's a great time to transition to talking about the first fragment, Thread of Rebirth. Here's some gameplay footage to break down what Thread of Rebirth does. I've got my little threadling here. He's going out, and he's going to cause damage to a target. Let's look at the damage that he's causing here. Dealing 13,000 damage there. Now that's because the threadling is being generated from the fragment. Now when we look at the threadling being generated from the weapon itself, it does have a 20% damage buff because of the absorption cells buff. So the way that Bungie codes this is that if you generate a threadling from the fragment itself, it's not going to get the 20% damage bonus, but if you generate a threadling from the weapon itself, it acts in its own way that it's going to be buffed for like weapon damage, so we're going to get a 20% buff on that threadling, which is great. Now then, we're also going to be able to chain and have the potential to spit out 2 threadlings at the same time. You'll see that here in the footage coming up. We're going to get a kill on an enemy, and we're going to see 2 threadlings come out, one that's generated from the weapon's Hatchling perk, and one that's generated from the fragment Thread of Generation, which is really great because one of them's going to deal an extra 20% damage, and then you're just going to have another threadling go out and kill another target for you. Now another way that you can generate threadlings is through your super. It actually sends out a damaging burst, but it also has threadlings that go out and seek other targets and kill them as well. So that's going to be a way that we're going to segue next into the super damage testing. Let's take a look at the strand damage super testing here. Credit goes out to Marco last name. I'll leave a link in the description of the video to showcase the footage. Basically, we're going to see the difference between Needlestorm damage, Nova Bomb Cataclysm damage, and Nova Bomb Vortex damage. And then after that, we're going to take a look at a Thunder Crash Titan wearing the exotic chest piece, Curse of the Falling Star, to see the damage comparison numbers there. So it's really interesting to take a look at this because it shows that Needlestorm is able to put out the same amount of damage as a Falling Star Titan Thunder Crash. So that's very interesting. And also know that it's a pretty fast super when you have the Mantle of Battle Harmony on. And there's our final Thunder Crash Titan numbers there. Next, let's move into taking a look at the second fragment, Thread of Generation. What Thread of Generation is going to do, it's going to generate grenade energy when we're dealing damage. Take a look at my grenade energy here. I've got the clip slowed down, and then afterwards we're going to take a look at it in real time. And here's real time. We're just getting massive amounts of grenade energy from this fragment, so it's really valuable fragment to keep our abilities up and keep our loops going. Our third fragment is Thread of Mind. This is going to pair so well with our previous fragment, where when we're dealing damage, we generate grenade energy. Thread of Mind is going to do the same thing, but it's going to generate class ability energy when we defeat suspended targets. So not only are we going to be able to generate some free grenade energy by dealing damage, when we also deal damage on a suspended target, we're going to get class ability energy and grenade energy in one. So these two fragments pair together so well to create such a good synergistic combination to provide ability energy. And that's very important for this build. And it's very easy to activate because we're going to be running Weaver's Trance and we're going to suspend targets with that. Now our fourth and final fragment of the build is Thread of Continuity. Thread of Continuity provides a longer suspend duration. So I have this Unstoppable here, and I've thrown a Shackle Grenade on him because I wasn't ready to deal with him. I needed to take care of the other adds that were around me before I could focus on that target. But you'll notice because I activated Weaver's Trance, I had a chain reaction suspension happen somewhere along the lines, so that red bar was suspended while I was able to have the Unstoppable suspended for a very long duration, so I could balance dealing with both of those at the same time. And the longer these enemies are suspended, the more likely you are to be able to go back to them, deal damage and generate grenade energy, deal damage to them and generate class ability energy because they are suspended, and then they're not shooting at you because they are suspended. So that's really important as a part of this build, and that helps just keep the flow of the ability energy happening, because if they happen to get out of the suspension, we're not going to get the class ability energy when we defeat them, which means we're not going to be able to cast our Rift, proc utility kickstart, and proc bomber and keep our ability loops cycling. And this all goes back to Weaver's Trance. By consuming our grenade, we're able to help, and this is all possible because of Weaver's Trance. By consuming our grenade, we're able to take advantage of all of these fragments. They longer suspend on our enemies. Then when we kill those suspended enemies, we're going to get class ability. While we're also damaging those suspended enemies, we're going to get grenade energy. And then we're also going to be able to generate a threadling when we defeat that enemy. And that's going to help deal an additional damage to another enemy that may be suspended. So it's all going to cycle together wonderfully. Next, let's take a look at our armor mods. I have one copy of Harmonic Siphon here. We're going to be running that to get Orbs of Power. Orbs of Power are going to be important in this build because picking them up is going to do multiple different things. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to proc Innervation. It's going to reduce our grenade cooldown each time we pick up an Orb of Power. Orbs of Restoration is also going to help reduce the cooldown of our ability that has the least amount of energy. And it's also going to provide 70 HP each time we pick up an Orb of Power. It's going to help when we're low on health. Then let's take a look at our arms. We have one copy of Harmonic Loader, and then we're going to move on to Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack will reduce our grenade cooldown. It's very important because we have 3 copies of our melee. We are able to throw 3 melees. Now we have to space these out to get the maximum benefit, and it's a 7-second cooldown, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But we're also still thinking about this realistically, able to, with it spaced out, get 60% of our grenade energy back. And then we have Focusing Strike, and once again, this plays on the same thing that we said previously because we have the 3 melees, just like Impact Induction. We're going to be able to throw melees out and generate class ability energy. It's very important. I have a copy of Concussive Dampener, Void Resistance, Solar Resistance. Just depending on the content you're doing, you can shift and change these resistance mods to suit you in your playstyle, depending on the content. Then on our bond, we're going to have one copy of Bomber. That's going to reduce our grenade cooldown each time we activate our class ability. We're going to be activating that because obviously it's going to send out threadlings for us. So that's really important. That's also going to help give us some free grenade energy as well. Then we're going to move on to look at our other mod here, which is going to be Outreach. Outreach is going to provide melee energy when we cast our Rift. And then last but not least, we have Utility Kickstart. This is going to close the loop on the Rift. When we cast it with some armor charges, we're going to get a huge chunk of it back. So that's going to help close the ability loops. I hope you guys appreciated this build. Go ahead and give it a try. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about the build. I think it's quite nasty with the Final Warning combo, threadling, suspending, unraveling rounds going out. I'm not really covering any of the artifact mods because I don't want to touch on those right now. It may kind of prop the build up, but sometimes it's not everything that's make or break for the build. I'm using a glaive in a lot of this footage because it's a way to stun unstoppable champions with using a special weapon, and the glaive shield is actually quite powerful, and volatile rounds on a glaive, void glaive, it's very good. It's very good right now with this season, so take advantage of it while you can because it's going to go away. But yeah, I appreciate everybody's viewership. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the new subscriptions. Hope you guys all enjoy. Take care. Peace.